Hello and welcome. I am Pranay Upadhyay and you are watching World Today. New Delhi has issued a strong and unequivocal response just an hour after US President Donald Trump signed an executive order imposing an additional 25% tariff on India, bringing the total tariff to staggering 50%. In a sharply worded statement, the Indian government called the US action unfortunate, noting that India's energy imports are driven by market realities and critical need to ensure the energy security. India emphasized that these decisions are made in its national interest, just as many other countries are doing. It added that the US tariffs are unfair, unjustified, and unreasonable. The government of India has also made it clear that India will take all necessary steps to safeguard its national interests. So definitely, this is a head-on thing between India and United States, where the government of India has made it clear that India is not going to succumb under any circumstances the kind of pressure being mounted by the US President Donald Trump. I am being joined by my colleague Rohit Sharma, as well as my guest Puneet Ahluwalia from the United States. Both Rohit and Puneet are joining me from the United States. But Rohit, first I would like to come to you. That this decision not came as a surprise, but definitely, what is the way forward? Is there any back channel going on between India and United States?
Well, look, Brian, that is the expectation. I mean, obviously, there have been so many rounds of talk between both the nations. I mean, we've obviously seen that there has been some frustration from the United States, and they've gone on record to say that there has been frustrations with the Indian side over these trade talks. So President Trump had announced that he was going to do it. He gave 24-hour deadline. He's increased the tariffs and additional tariffs to up to 25%, which would take in effect of 21 days from now. Now, the bigger thing here is he's sort of given India another lease here by giving this 3-week extension with this additional tariffs. You do know that there is going to be another level of talks between both the sides, and there might be a possibility to reach that one, phase deal, phase one of the trade deal. And I think that's the reason why he's given that 21 days extra to be able to negotiate that. But knowing President Trump and how he likes to play hardball, I mean, this is not this wasn't like it came from the left field. I think it was on expected lines. This is how President Trump negotiates. The only thing is...
Absolutely right, Rohit. It is on the expected line, but this is certainly an escalation because this is going on an escalatory trajectory. I want to come to you, Puneet. You are the Republican Party strategist. And, the way President Donald Trump has slapped additional 25% tariff on India, bringing the total to 50%. This was not expected in India, that he is going to penalize India. While India has made it clear that everything possible the government of India will do to protect its interests, where the India-US relation is heading, because people like you have invested a lot in building of this relationship.
Pranay, thank you. We deeply care, as a proud Indian American, I deeply care about the US-India relationship. And everybody knows me as a strong voice for our heritage, our nation where I was born and brought up with. I'm very proud of it. And I want to see this relationship not go downhill or spiral downwards, which it is, and very quickly. What we have to see is that how could President Trump, who has such a great respect and regard for Prime Minister Modi, on numerous occasions had said great things about him. And suddenly, and so has Prime Minister Modi. And suddenly how these things go down. So somebody must have dropped the ball someplace. And why is it being now all pushed on President Trump? Because he's not singling out India. He's doing it through Japan, EU, and all these other nations. So I think there's been a miscalculation on the part of the people who are leading the charge on the negotiation. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but there is definitely a problem because there were 5 rounds of conversation, and Rohit very correctly said that there was a deep frustration on the U.S. side for not being able to reach a trade deal. And this is not a trade deal which has been going on now. It's been in works since...
But Puneet, there is also frustration on the Indian side as well, because White House calls India a friend, but hitting it hard with the tariffs and penalties for buying Russian oil. Why do you think that Trump is focusing on India here and not on the oil purchases being made by the European Union and China from Russia?
Well, India has always been in the corner of Russia for the reasons we all know. And I think what is important is that India is at a very pivotal moment. Where do they want to be seen? How do they want to be perceived? And this, the South strategy and the North strategy or the Western strategy, whatever it is, I think there's one strategy is how do you become strong partners with the United States? And nobody's saying that you cut your hands. What is important is, who do you want to be allied with? Is it be allied with Putin, or you want to be allied with the United States? Or the way we look at it is the free world. So that's a decision Prime Minister Modi and the leadership of India has to decide. And I feel that let's get our pens out, let's get a new team in place, and find a way to mitigate this issue and reach to the $500 billion trade, because there's so much to do and achieve between this relationship. And I think we can get to 15%. And I think that's where we need to focus on, is his personal relationship of Prime Minister Modi with President Trump, and having folks like myself
absolutely,
and others who are very close to
absolutely, Puneet, there is a requirement to go back to drawing board. Stay on with us. I'm also being joined by my colleague Geeta Mohan. But Rohit, I want to come to you on this point that just a while ago you broke the story that Asim Munir, Pakistan's field marshal, is all set to visit United States, again for his second visit. What are we picking up on this thing, and who is actually building the relationship or hyphenating US and Pakistan and de-hyphenating India and United States?
Well, look, if you were to just look at the last 7 months, I probably should say before Operation Sindoor, I think, things were fine. It's only after Operation Sindoor have things changed. America has realigned itself, investing in their old key partner, that was Pakistan. So it's, you could probably blame the current administration for doing that. But the fact is, Asif Munir was received warmly in Washington, D.C. not too long ago. After Operation Sindoor, he was the one who nominated President Donald Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize, and he's coming back this week to attend the farewell of U.S. CENTCOM General Kurila. So, look, they do go, years and decades. Their relationship has been there forever. But I think there was some sense of understanding that America has graduated from that and has been able to build its own individual relationship with India. Unfortunately, though, since last 2.5, 3 months, it's going back to where it was back in late 90s or, even 80s and Cold War time. So somebody's got to step in here. I do have a question for Puneet, and this is something, I really wanted to ask you, Puneet, as a Republican, and I've seen you operating on the ground, does India not have a direct line to President Trump? Looks like India has been talking to a lot of people, but why hasn't Indian Americans been able to, get to President Trump's ear and try to salvage this relationship?
And also, if I may add, Puneet, in the question made by, asked by Rohit, that what happened to Indian interlocutors? What happened to people like Tulsi Gabbard, to Kash Patel, those who we thought will play a pivotal role in the core team?
Pranay, unfortunately, the folks who are working in the administration are in a bubble. They really can't do anything. And that's the reason I prefer to be on the outside, so that I am more like a free agent to do what needs to be done. I'm very bullish about strong U.S.-India relationship, and I want to see this relationship not go downhill. And that's the reason when you and I were talking offline, unfortunately, the Indians or the Indian folks want to deal directly with the U.S. Leadership. But there are other channels, like folks like us who are loyalists, who've been in the part of the Republican Party for 25 years. You would never engage us. We are far more pivotal in getting to the ear of the leadership. It's just the access to the 7 U.S. senators and the congressmen that we have, who are strong allies of the President Trump. We reach out, we find champions of this relationship, but at the same time, it's also going to go down to the bottom line. What is achieving President Trump's goal and agenda by 2026? Because he wants to make sure that not only he has achieved finding peace in the Middle East and in Ukraine war, and at the same time brought in the deficit down, which is a big concern to us, at the same time propel the economy upwards. That's his main goal at this point, and that's what he's challenged with. At the same time, we retain the House in 2026 and position ourselves for 2028 win. So President Trump has every aspect of it around. He's focusing on multiple things. He has a short window, and his team of folks who I know personally are fantastic. They are committed, and they are basically a loyalist. And that's how it works in Washington. It's about personal relationship and loyalty. So that's the biggest currency in Washington, Rohit.
Puneet, stay on, but I want here, Geeta has also joined us.
Hey, Geeta.
Geeta, if I may ask, you have tracked the India-US relation in last 20 years. We have seen the bipartisan support. We have seen the trajectory, upwardly going trajectory of India-US partnership. What has happened? What did go wrong? And especially, as Puneet was mentioning, there was frustration. As Rohit also mentioned, there was a frustration in Trump administration. But also there is a frustration in India, in government of India, that, President Donald Trump is going hard on India and kind of exonerating or going soft on China and European Union for their oil purchases.
Well, keep mainstream coverage apart or aside. Rohit and I, we very closely were reporting and covering the elections. And all through the elections, Pranay, Donald Trump, on the one hand, was praising Prime Minister Modi, but in that very same breath kept repeating that India has been very tough on trade and tariffs, and should I come to power, I will ensure that they are made to pay. That latter part was missing in most of the coverage that we were seeing otherwise, but we did cover it, and we kept saying that if President Trump wins, this time around it's going to be different. He's walking the talk. He's actually doing exactly what he thought or what he promised his people.
Absolutely, Geeta. This is not for the first time he has mentioned about tariffs in his previous tenure, previous presidency also. He mentioned about the tariffs. But the kind of hard stand he is taking, as far as India is concerned, that is unprecedented.
Absolutely. So there are a few things over here, Pranay. One is that he's taken a hard stance. Some things we were anticipating. Again, Rohit and I were covering it very closely, so were you. Some things we were anticipating, like he would be tough on India, maybe on tariff. Some things we are a little stunned about, his complete flip on Russia, because we thought, okay, maybe we'll get a reprieve there, unlike the Biden administration. And some things have really shocked us, like his position on Pakistan. Never did we think that he's going to take such a position on Pakistan, where all previous administrations at least try to balance things out between India and Pakistan, given that India is a more important country geostrategically, strategically, economically than Pakistan. But Trump over here has flipped that also. So for India has to be calibrated in its response. They've already said, and again reiterated, that they're going to look at their own interests. But this is 50% tariff we're talking about. It's going to shake the markets. It's going to shake the economy. But it's also going to shake American economy, maybe a little later down the line.
Rohit, since you have been tracking the Trump administration day in, day out, very closely, in February 2025, when Prime Minister Modi visited White House, we saw that India was among those countries who started off the trade negotiations at a very early stage with the Trump administration. The bilateral trade agreement negotiations started in way back in February. What happened to after that? Where did the things go wrong?
I think as far as I have learned from people on the ground here, Pranay, I think it has been, India was one of the first movers. Lutnick at India Today conclave said himself that, India might get the first movers advantage to be able to seal the deal. And then they had announced that during February's Prime Minister's visit that it would be autumn. By autumn, we'll have a deal in place. We saw Piyush Goyal flying to Washington, D.C., delegation going to India. I mean, everything was working fine. As far as what I have picked is that India had agreed in terms for an interim deal, which the President of the United States did not want to. He wanted more concessions. There were some sticking points he wanted to iron out. And I think that has led to this, and I dare call it a disaster at this point in time, because those sticking points have not been ironed out. President Trump wants free access to Indian markets. He wants those GMO products. He wants access to agriculture and dairy, which India is not willing to give. And now he's playing hardball to get India back to the negotiating table to get some of those concessions. So I think
Rohit,
that's
you must have seen the statement from the government of India. Those are the red lines. India has to protect the interest of farmers, the dairy producers, or the MSME people, those who are in the industries. So clearly, these are the red lines for India. But Puneet, how do you see these tariffs affecting the American businesses and consumers, given the trade deficit with India and the potential for higher cost? Because, I want you to go back to that February 2025 meeting of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the US President Donald Trump, because there they decided to take the India-US bilateral trade to $500 billion. So from $500 billion target, now we are at the stage of 50% tariff on Indian products.
Pranay, I think there was a missed opportunity and miscalculation on whoever part it is, but I believe that President Trump was looking that India would be one of the first deals he would do. He was pretty excited about that. And I know from my relationships that I would say that this would be a good headliner and India is right ahead. But you have to also realize Washington is always moving. It's a maze. And if you are not positioned well, or if you think you're positioned, but you're not, you've got to keep working multiple channels. It's like an orchestra. Everything has to play and have to play sometimes smoothly. And there are forces at work because they want to dismantle the relationship that India has built in a very short span of time. And the diaspora is doing a fantastic job, and the personal dynamic between Prime Minister Modi and Trump. So there are things which will always change. But Geeta is exactly correct. President Trump has never wavered on what he wanted to do when he wins. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's fulfilling his election and promises. But you have to also realize, United States is one of the biggest consumers. We are the biggest market. And a lot of people say, let's diversify. But there is nobody like United States. And in the end, yes, we'll feel the pinch. And that's the reason why President Trump is working on the fact that if we can reduce the deficit, we can reduce the interest rate. That's the reason he's kind of bullish on the Fed chairman, Powell, to reduce the interest rate so that the small, mid-sized business or the family businesses can then thrive, and the United States economy will thrive. And that will propel the internal economy so that we are positioned very well in 2026 and 2028. And you will start to see the real estate boom coming back in Washington or in the United States come March, April. So there are a lot of things which are in planning. And I really wish that the folks in India find an opportunity, get onto the best aspect of reaching $500 billion deal and not looking at what would be the tariff, because I know how President Trump is. Yes, he likes to bully his way through, but at the same time, he's doing it for the American people because that's what he's promised them. Let's try to find a way how India can get to 15%. Let's not listen to the naysayers. I think it's very important for India. It's a pivotal moment for India to realize that do they want to be the
very sharp and a short response. Do you think that as President Donald Trump said that he is a deal maker, he is a peacemaker, he is for all deal. Can he give a good deal to India? Is he ready? Is he open?
Yes, if India wants to do a deal, I think President Trump will do a deal.
But there are red lines for India. Would he respect the red lines for India as a good partner?
He's a compassionate. He's a good partner. I'll tell you one thing: if you figure out way, and which I think Prime Minister Modi can get to it, he's a tough negotiator. But don't negotiate yourself out of the deal. That's my concern. So find a way to get to 500 billion. Find a way that we can be strong allies, or India can be a strong ally to the United States, and we can depend and rely on you as we do it on the European Union and other partners like Israel and others. So that's the choice India has to make.
Yeah, sure. Geeta, this announcement has come at a time when India's NSA, Ajit Doval, and both President Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, are in Moscow. You know, are we looking at some reorientation or some, like how the geopolitical chessboard you are reading?
Well, we just decoded it on India Today Global, Pranay, and we are talking about how Trump's decisions are in fact pushing Russia, India, China closer. We are going to look at more conversations, backroom channel talks that have already opened up amongst these three countries. And that's not good news for America. So whilst President Trump is doing what he is doing, in the long run, there is a lot that, Washington, D.C. could lose out on. Also remember, he has a term, and that term will end 3.5 years hence. And again, we'll have to see how America realigns its priorities with India and with Asia. Having said that, just a quick point, that I want to make, Pranay, about Asim Munir's visit to America. Don't forget, it's General Kurilla, who only recently was honored with the Nishan-e-Imtiaz, which is the Order of Excellence. So you're looking at Pakistan playing a very different game out here. They're willing to sell their land, they're willing to sell resources in order to be in the good books of America, and Trump is loving that right now.
Absolutely right. Geeta, Trump is he's walking the talk, you can say. But definitely, this is a very tricky and a very peculiar situation. Rohit, a very sharp and a very quick response. Do you see more trouble for Indians there? Because there are a lot of concern in Indian American community there. Because a lot of students are there, H-1B visa holders are there. Are we up for a trouble?
It could be. I mean, we've seen a lot of traction in online hatred towards Indians. I mean, there have been calls from the Congress itself, trying to end the H-1B visas, asking President Trump to do that on the back of his demands about India stopping purchasing this Russian oil. So yes, we could possibly see that. That would be, I guess, a phase 2 of if Trump wants to really, I don't want to use the word, but if he really wants to nail India. he could do that, but that would be, I think, an extreme step.
Thank you very much, Rohit,
I
Geeta,
agree.
and Puneet, for joining on
Thank
this
you.
this show. Thank you very much. And now we are getting breaking news. U.S. Army base, there is an active shooters incident has been reported at the Fort Stewart in Georgia, prompting a lockdown. So we are getting a breaking news from the United States that 5 soldiers are shot at. There is an active shooter incident, shooting situation at a U.S. Army base. An active shooter incident has been reported at Fort Stewart in Georgia, prompting a lockdown. There is a confirmed report of 5 soldiers were shot and wounded. So there is a lockdown situation being reported at the Fort Stewart base in Georgia, province of United States. So there's an active shooter situation being reported from United States. There's a shootout at the US base.
And we are just monitoring the situation, trying to think we're still
And that's all we have in today's edition of World Today. For more international stories, do log on to India Today Global on YouTube. Take care and good night.